You're not alone.
Do you think I still deserve to be happy? He asked her that. Right there at the table where she had just turned him down. Same white linen, same dinner that hasn't been touched. A bad blind date. The woman he was meant to see saw him and his left arm, which ended at the elbow, and walked out without saying a word. No farewell. No need to say sorry. He just disappeared, as if he weren't even human. That was when Roland Kane, a 36-year-old billionaire CEO and one of the most prominent men in tech, sat in silence, till the waiter came to clean up the table. She was a black person, young, in a way that didn't ask for attention yet got it regardless. She was beautiful. Her uniform was immaculate, her afro was pulled back, and her smile, that smile was still warm after a shift of fake smiles and being ignored. Zaria. He spoke when she grabbed for the bread basket. His voice was steady, but the weight of what he said made her stop. Do you still think I deserve to be happy? She looked up at him, and their eyes met. The man in front of her seemed like a successful person. He wore a nicely fitted suit and a Rolex watch, and had a presence that filled the room. But not working. Not only in the body, in faith. She recognized that look, because she had worn it too. A woman who wouldn't let Zaria serve the table labeled her the help not long ago. A hiring manager had told her not long ago that she was too dark to be seen, and he smiled as he said it. A black story that too many people know and too few talk about. But there she was, facing a man who had just been embarrassed on a date he paid for and still had the guts to ask a stranger if he was worth loving. Before we get into it more, I want to ask you something. Where are you viewing from today? We love to see how far the stories on Hidden Worth go, so please leave a remark. What is today's story? It doesn't have to do with money. It's not even about losing. It's about what happens when two people whom the world tried to break up opt to see each other anyhow. Let's get started. Zaria didn't answer right away. She carefully completed stacking the dishes that hadn't been touched, her fingers brushing across the folded napkin next to the wine glass that hadn't been touched. People were talking, laughing, and clinking silverware against china all around them. But time had stopped at that table. She put the dishes on her tray and then stared at him. Not at the lost arm, the costly outfit, or the cold steak on the plate. She looked at him, and ultimately said, "People who have been told they don't deserve happiness ask questions like that." Roland blinked. She didn't sound sorry. It wasn't sweet. That was the truth. It was clear, incisive, and almost too honest. There was a silence between them that was full of all the things they weren't saying. Roland leaned back and held his breath for a second. Then he made a sound that was half a laugh and half an exhalation. Do you ever feel like the world decided who you were before you even had a chance to say anything? He inquired. Zaria raised one eyebrow. Every day. It wasn't meant to be a talk. She was meant to clean up the table and then go back to being invisible. But something changed. Maybe it was because he looked at her like she was really there and not simply doing a job. Perhaps it was because she didn't recoil when she saw his arm. She didn't look away or change her posture like so many others did, as if his presence made them uncomfortable. A couple in the corner booth had shouted at her earlier that night. The woman snapped her fingers and asked for a different server because she didn't want someone with an attitude. All Zaria had done was deliver her water. She heard a man mumble that her lips were too full to look professional, and every time she walked by table 12, the three men in suits laughed just loud enough for her to hear, but not so loud that they could deny it if she called them out. She was used to it. The looks, the remarks, the sense that no one could see you until they needed a target. And now this strong man was eating alone at a table for two, not because he wasn't good enough, but because someone had determined that his missing limb was all they needed to know. She whispered softly, "I'm Zaria, and you don't have to eat by yourself if you don't want to." For a long time, Roland stared at her. Then he took the chair across from him and said, "Then maybe you'll let me take you out to dinner. Not as a buyer. Just two people the world continues trying to get rid of." She thought for a moment. Then they sat down. Not as a server, as someone who got it. Two people, one time, and a conversation that the world didn't see coming. As the last customers left, the restaurant lights went out. In the kitchen, dishes made a faint noise. Zarya took off her name tag and put it in her apron pocket. Her feet hurt after another long shift, and her mind was still going over the peaceful dinner she had at table 7. After she sat down, he didn't say much. She hadn't either. It wasn't that kind of talk. We just shared stillness, understanding, and a peculiar sense of contentment that felt almost earned. She saw him outside, resting on the hood of a matte black Tesla that looked like it belonged on the cover of a magazine. He had taken off his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves, making the shape of his missing arm more obvious. He didn't try to hide it. That was more important to her than she thought. "Do you still want to talk?" he inquired. Zarya shrugged, not sure. "That depends. Is wine a part of it?" He smiled slowly and in shock. "There can be." They ended themselves at a little, quiet tavern off River Street. Old bricks, smooth jazz, and dim lighting. A world different from the polished, business-like places he undoubtedly knew too well. Zarya enjoyed it because no one told her to smile unless they really meant it. The bartender bowed at her like they were old friends and handed her the same drink she always got, crimson, dry, and familiar. She may pick the table for Roland, a little one in the back. "So," she said, after taking a taste. "What happened?" He didn't act like he didn't know what she meant. "Private jet, storm out of the blue." "I was flying," he said, taking a sip of his scotch. "The tree line caught the wing. I barely got out." He raised his arm and said, "Lost this. And someone I cared about didn't make it." Zarya didn't apologize. He didn't look like he wanted that. He needed space to let the words out, not silence to cover them up. "People acted differently toward me after that. People who invest, members of the board, the woman I imagined I would marry." "She left?" "Yes, after I stopped hiding the arm." Zarya swirled her drink. "People see weakness when they should see survival." He really stared at her. "And you? What do you think?" She thought about it for a moment. Then they answered. "I was informed I wasn't marketable enough to work the front desk at a hotel where I cleaned bathrooms for 2 years. They said, too urban. That's what businesses say when they mean too black." She looked him in the eye. "We all lose something. You lost an arm. I couldn't see anymore." The water whispered against the docks outside. Inside, 2 people who should never have met were finding out that they had known pieces of each other their whole lives. And somehow, through their shared suffering and dry wine, they both found a door they never thought they would find. They didn't schedule their second meeting until the next weekend, but that did happen. Zarya was wrapping up her shift at another cafe, which she did on the side to make additional money for rent. It was smaller and calmer, with old lighting and vinyl records playing old soul music. Roland strolled in while she was cleaning the counter. He was wearing pants and a plain black shirt. No help, no one driving, only him. He held up a bottle like a peace gift and said, "I thought I owed you another glass of that wine you like." Zarya blinked in shock. "You found me?" "I asked the bartender at the jazz bar. He stated he knew where his best customer worked when she wasn't drinking his stock." She laughed. "So now I'm your side quest?" Roland answered, "No," and put the bottle down carefully. "You are the main story." They spoke again. This time, they were in the rear courtyard under string lights, telling stories not just about pain but also about how they got through it. She told him that her brother was in jail for a crime that a white teenager got community service for. He told her what people were saying in the boardroom, that clients lost faith in him after the accident, not because he lost talent, but because he didn't project strength. They were discovering something in each other that felt special, honesty without a filter. But the world wasn't still. A picture showed up on a rumor site on Monday, a blurry picture of Roland and Zarya strolling next to each other outside the cafe, with Zarya laughing at whatever he said. She looked beautiful. He looked like he was living. The title said, "Is Roland Kane slumming it? Billionaire CEO cozy with mystery waitress?" By lunchtime, it was a big deal. The comments arrived quickly and were full of hate. Is she his romantic diversity hire? When did tech companies start dating their workers? She is clearly playing him. Gold digger alert. Zarya's phone kept vibrating. She got a lot of hateful DMs on Instagram. Anonymous callers to her employer told them to Keep staff professional. Someone even put a slur on her high school photos and posted them online. Roland called. She didn't respond. She was sitting on her bed with her phone face down and her wine untouched. She had remained invisible for much of her life, but this was not the type of attention she wanted. Not interested, not even hate. It was dehumanization in a computerized box. And under it all, a question that wouldn't leave her alone. Is this what I get for letting someone see me? She had come, truth spoken, let her guard down. The world had punished her for it, though. By the end of the day, Zarya had removed all of the apps on her phone. Instagram, Twitter, even the talk with her girls. She couldn't take any more comments, screenshots, or memes with her face next to a gold digger emoji. No one at work said anything, and they didn't have to. Her boss cut her shifts short. Her tips went down overnight. A regular customer who had been coming in for months suddenly wanted to move to a different table. One woman said to her husband in a loud voice, "Isn't that the girl from the scandal?" Like Zarya wasn't right there, like she wasn't a person. She stopped answering Roland's texts, not because she didn't want to, but every part of her body screamed that this wasn't safe. He had given flowers. She didn't read the card. He sent an email, once called, sent a voicemail that stated nothing and everything in 8 words. "I'm sorry they did this. I'm still here." But what did that even mean? Still here, what for? For the girl who had been embarrassed in front of everyone? For the woman whose name had become a joke? No, he didn't understand. He couldn't. People would stop thinking about him. They would go on. They always do for guys like him. But not her. The world couldn't forget her skin. 2 nights later, she sat in the kitchen of their modest apartment with her best friend, Alina, holding a chipped mug of tea. Zarya replied, just above a whisper, "I think I'm going to ghost him." Alina put her phone down. "You already have." Zarya didn't say no. I thought he might have seen me," she added. "Not just the good parts. All of me. And I allowed him in. And now? You think you have to pay for trusting someone?" Zarya nodded. Alina was quiet for a little too long. "Hey," she began slowly. "I didn't mean for it to blow up like that." Zarya blinked. "What?" Alina took a deep breath. "I forwarded the picture to a friend who works at SpillPage. She promised that it wouldn't get out. I just believed that if people saw you with someone like him, things may change, perhaps open doors, but I didn't realize it would end up like this." Zarya looked at her. The person she trusted the most had been the one to set the fire. She wasn't only let down by the internet. It was the quiet that came after, the inbox that is empty, the calls that are receding. It was learning that fear, not hate, may sometimes drive love away. Zarya was scared right now. She hadn't seen him in 8 days. Zarya had begun to count without even meaning to. Every day seemed to last longer than the one before it. Most of the world had moved on. A new scandal involving a famous person was all over the news. People had ceased talking about her face, but the memory of what happened still remained in her bones. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, right after the lunch rush, she stopped filling sugar jars at the cafe and looked up. He was at the counter. No bodyguard, no shades. Roland was wearing trousers and a gray hoodie. His left sleeve was folded and clipped nicely. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. But his eyes stayed the same. "I didn't come for coffee," he said. "I came for you." Zarya put the jar down. Her hands shook a little, but she steadied them. She replied softly, "You shouldn't be here." Roland said, "Maybe not, but I'm sick of pretending that you didn't change something in me." She walked around the counter and met him by the window. They were 5 feet apart, then 4, then 2. "I didn't want all that attention," she remarked. "I didn't want to be your scandal. I know, and I didn't keep you safe, not the way I should have." Zarya crossed her arms. "Do you think flowers and voicemails will fix this?" "No," he responded. "I think the truth might." He gazed at her like he was seeing her face for the first time in a long time. "I didn't see you as a story, Zarya. Not a sign, not a headline. You were the first person who didn't blink, who didn't turn away. You stared at me like I wasn't hurt. And I didn't know how much I needed it." She stopped breathing. She hadn't sobbed in a long time. But suddenly her vision was hazy. "I'm not here to fix you either," she said. "I'm not a project or a second chance." He smiled, and it was real and exhausted. "Good, because I'm not seeking for the best. I'm just looking for someone who talks back." Zarya laughed, but the sound broke in the midst. Tears filled her eyes. "You know you're a mess, right?" "Completely." She shook her head and wiped her cheek. "And what exactly do you want?" Roland responded, "A second try. Food, no photographers, no headlines, only you and me, and a table that doesn't have any cameras." For a long, quiet period, Zarya stared at him. Then, even though she was tired and crying, she smiled. "Only if you pay," she said. And just like that, something broke between them. Not fixed, not gone, but not closed. And maybe, just maybe, that was all it took to start over. The next night, they met in a parking lot near a food truck park on the south side of Savannah. No chauffeur, no reservations, no paparazzi hiding behind opaque windows. Zarya wore a denim jacket and hoop earrings, while Roland wore an old Braves cap that didn't quite cover how tired he was behind his smile. "Is this what you think of as dinner?" Roland asked, looking around. Zarya smiled. "You said no cameras. These people hardly notice their own meals, let alone anyone else's." The park smelled like frying oil and barbecue smoke. There were picnic tables amid string lights and rusty crates that had been transformed into plant stands. It wasn't fancy, but it was full of life, with kids laughing, soda bottles clinking, and kids running between tables and legs. Zarya took him to a table toward the rear and gave him a laminated menu that was already starting to curl at the corners. She joked, "I hope you're not too rich for brisket." He said, "I'm rich," with a straight face, "not dumb." She asked for jerked pork and sweet potato fries. He ordered beef with mac and cheese and a cherry drink in a bottle. When the food came, Roland tried to grab the plastic fork with his right hand, which was the only hand he had, but he dropped it. At first, Zarya didn't say anything, just saw. The meat fell off. The fork shook. After a few seconds, she reached over, picked up the container, and gently put it against the side of his plate. "There," she said, "working together." He grinned and looked at her, really looked. No one ever just helps. They either hurry in or act like they need help. "Well, I've spent my whole life helping people who didn't ask," she responded. "Helping someone who wants it? That's a first." They ate leisurely, and the conversation flowed between bites. She told him that her college goals were on hold since she had to pay for her mom's hospital fees. He told her about the business he started in his garage and how none of his investors came to see him after the disaster. No masks, no filtering. It's the kind of honesty that occurs when you stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. Later, they split a funnel cake and laughed at how powdered sugar adhered to everything. He got some on his lip. She wiped it off without even thinking. There were no flashes from cameras. No headlines were broken. But something changed. They weren't the one-armed billionaire or the black waitress who became a tabloid focus for the first time. They were simply two persons. And this time, they weren't faking it. A text message was the first warning. "Mom's in town. She asked about your friend." Roland read the note from his sister Serena while seated across from Zarya in a cafe at a local bookstore. Zarya was flipping through a worn poetry book without a care in the world. He didn't say anything at that moment, but he was aware. His mother never just asked. Zarya got an invitation to lunch 2 days later. Zarya had on a silky gray top and pants that were ironed, easy and clean. She put her hair in braids and wore little earrings, only chapstick, no other makeup. She didn't want to impress. She was doing her best not to hurt anyone's feelings. They got together at a downtown country club, the kind where only valets could park, and members still used the word proper in everyday speech. Roland was not invited. Zarya sat at a white table close to a koi pond under a pergola. Elaine Kane sat across from her. She wore pearls like armor and talked with the clear, precise voice of someone who had never been interrupted. Elaine responded, "Zarya," in a voice that was both warm and chilly at the same moment. "I've heard a lot about you. Some stories are very nice, some bad press." Zarya smiled nicely. "The internet has a lot of opinions. Elaine nodded, her lips stiff. Yes. They drank tea. There was some small talk after that. The weather, the way it looks. A few direct inquiries concerning Zaria's childhood, schooling, and ambitions. Then the time Zaria had been waiting for came. Elaine put down her cup with a soft clink and remarked, I hope you understand that this isn't personal, but how you look matters, especially for someone like Roland. The media may be nasty. And the board has said they are worried. Zaria turned her head. Are you saying I'm bad for business? Elaine didn't even blink. I'm telling you. Roland has worked too hard to make a name for himself that people in the right circles respect. That kind of respect is fragile and easy to break. Zaria looked at the elder woman for a minute, her breath calm. She said, with all due respect, in a calm voice, I'm not a press release. I am not a sign or a statement. Your son picked me to spend time with. Not because I'm easy to get to, because I'm real. Elaine put her napkin away. You are young. In time, all of this will make sense. Zaria got up. She smoothed out her blouse. I don't need your approval, ma'am, she said, but thanks for lunch. She left that table with her back straight and her hands shaking. She told Roland everything later that night. He didn't move. He said, I love her. But she doesn't get to decide what happens to me. He really meant it. But Zaria also knew that in families like his, blood can sometimes establish lines that no heart can pass without bleeding. Zaria didn't go right away. She attempted to act like nothing had changed, that their late-night walks and private dinners might block out the sound of people judging them. But something had changed. Roland's mother wasn't the only one. It wasn't the looks from outsiders or the quiet whispers from friends. It was hard for her to always have to justify her place in someone else's universe. She felt the eyes on her wherever she went. In the store, in the bookstore, even walking along the riverfront holding hands. Not being curious, close look. Not, look at that happy couple. More like, how did she get with him? She hated that it was starting to bother her, that her laugh was muted, that she thought twice about every outfit, that she stopped smiling with her whole face in public. She sat on his balcony, covered in a blanket, and watched the lights of the city flicker below while he slept one night. He had given her everything, room, kindness, and a place at the table, but the world hadn't. And maybe it never would. The next morning, she put a note on his bedside table, just one page, folded in half. It said, You asked me once if I believed you still deserved to be happy, and I said that only individuals who have been told not to ask things like that do. I understand now. I don't think I do either. Not like this. Not when being with you makes me feel like I'm not who I am. You deserve someone who doesn't have to change to fit into your life. And I should feel free, not like I'm always on trial. So I'm leaving before I forget who I am. Don't follow me. Please think of me when things are quiet. Zaria. She didn't bring much, just what she brought. No gifts, no shirts from other people. She left his hoodie, the one she had slept in more than once, neatly folded on the couch. Roland got up too late. He read the note. Read it once, then read it again. The words become blurry the third time. He didn't call, no text. But that night, Zaria got a package. That hoodie was inside. And one more thing. His old white dress shirt, which he used to wear to board meetings. He stopped wearing it after the accident because it didn't fit right anymore. The left sleeve was too loose. It had been cut and stitched back together, perfectly fitted to terminate at the elbow. There was a note inside. Stop hiding. You aren't the only one who has had to change who they are. You showed me how. Put this on the next time the world tries to make you smaller. R. She held the cloth in her hands for a long time. But she didn't cry. Not this time. Zaria didn't see his face in person for the first time. It was on a screen. She didn't mean to watch the TED Talk. While she was waiting for the bus, it showed up in her stream. The headline was unclear. The thumbnail was dimly illuminated, and it was simply his name, Roland Kane, Redefining Wholeness. She clicked on it. The stage was small and bare. No slides, only him and one spotlight. His sleeve was pulled up, and the tailored edge of his dress shirt stopped just below his elbow. Not a prosthesis, no cover. He stood still and peaceful, looking out at the audience as if he weren't performing but remembering. He started by saying, "I used to think success was armor. A strong brand, a strong jawline, a firm handshake. I lost one of those. And all of a sudden, the world acted like I had lost all three." The audience chuckled softly. I recall sitting across from someone who saw me, not what I'd lost, and asking her a question I wasn't brave enough to ask anybody else. Do I still deserve happiness? Zaria's heart stopped. I asked because I didn't believe it myself. I assumed that being shattered meant you couldn't win. He stopped. But she reminded me that being alive is a sign of strength, that changing doesn't make you less, it makes you more. The room was quiet, waiting for him to speak. We all have scars, you can view some of them, some you can't, but what if those marks don't mean damage? What if they mean we made it through? He looked down for a second, then he looked up. I almost allowed fear to make me think that loving someone who is totally different from me would cost me everything I worked for. But now I know that if your foundation can't hold love, you shouldn't maintain it. Zaria's hands shook as she swallowed hard. Roland said, "I'm not here to impress anyone. I'm here to inform you that being whole doesn't mean being perfect. It is there. It's showing up as you are, with no apology. It's making a life with your scars, not in spite of them." There was no applause at the end of the speech, just a moment of silence, like everyone needed a break to breathe. Zaria saw it twice, then 3 more times. Not because of him. It's because of her. Because her narrative, which was full of rejection, fear, and shame, had been seen, heard, and honored. At that moment, she understood something. She hadn't been hiding from him. She had been avoiding the idea that someone would really believe in her enough to stay. She took out the dress shirt he sent her that night, wear it, rolled up the sleeves, and began to pack her things. She had to go somewhere. That night, Roland didn't expect to see her. He was standing by the riverwalk after his speech, with his tie free and his nerves slowly going away. People had clapped, some people cried, a few people had lined up to say thank you. But he kept gazing for a face that wasn't there. Until it was. Zaria came out of the shadows as if she belonged there. It was as if the silence had been waiting for her to fill it. She had on the white top, the one he changed, made just for him, but now hugging her like armor. Her curls were pulled back, her eyes were calm, and her chin was high. He responded, "You cut your hair," in a harsh voice. "You gave a TED Talk," she said. He moved a little closer, but not too close. He didn't want to press. "I wasn't sure if you wanted to hear my voice again." "I didn't," Zaria answered, not meanly, but honestly. "But then I heard what you did with it." They stood still for a long time. She said, "I was mad. At the world. You. I can't believe I thought this would work." Roland said, "I was scared. Afraid I couldn't keep you safe from everything. I was afraid I'd ask you to carry something that wasn't fair." Zaria's eyes swelled up, but she didn't cry. "You're not the only one who carries things," she said softly. He dug inside his coat pocket, which made him look awkward, like a man who was half ready and half scared. No big speech, no ideal light. "It's just a little box with worn corners." He held it out, unopened, and remarked, "I don't have a script, and I don't know if this is the right time, or the correct way." She didn't take it. Not yet. "But I do know this," he said next. "I want you to be a part of my life. Not as someone I keep hidden, not as a part of my life that I look back on, but as my future." He opened the box. The ring wasn't that big, it wasn't made to order, there weren't a lot of diamonds on it. It was easy, old-fashioned. Just like her, the silver band had one clear stone that caught the light. He said quietly, "I can't be whole without you, but I want to be better with you." Zaria looked at the ring, then at him. Finally, she stepped up, took his hand, and curled his fingers around the box. She said, "I'm not saying yes, not yet, but I'm not saying no either." She put her forehead to his, and that's more than I've said to anyone in a long time. The next day, they didn't get married. There were no viral videos of a proposal under fireworks, And there was no perfect Instagram picture with the phrase, "She said yes." But there were Sunday mornings when we all sat in solitude and drank coffee. They went on lengthy hikes where they didn't have to explain why they were valuable. There were real fights, but they were followed by apologies and honesty, not dread and distancing. And maybe that was the point. Because happiness didn't come from the right time or the right people. It arrived when two flawed individuals stopped acting like they had to earn it. Zarya learned that she didn't have to make herself smaller to be noticed. She didn't need a man to tell her how valuable she was, but she selected someone who did. Someone who never told her to change but pushed her to have faith. Roland learned that being open and honest wasn't a sign of weakness, it was a way to connect with others. That protecting someone didn't always mean shielding them. Sometimes it meant standing next to them, fully exposed, with nothing left to prove but everything left to give. And together, they made something that didn't fit inside a box. But it worked for them. Not everyone got it. Some people never would. But they did. That was enough. And if you're still listening, maybe there's a reason you've made it this far. Maybe you've asked yourself the same question before. Do I still deserve to be happy? Someone might have made you feel that way. Maybe a voice in your own thoughts told you that your flaws, wounds, and past made you unworthy. Zarya had to learn this the hard way, and Roland had to learn it again. You don't get happiness just because you're flawless. You deserve to be happy because you're a person. Because you're still here. You get up every morning and have to deal with a world that often attempts to tell you you're too much or not enough. Because you're trying. And it is brave all by itself. If this tale moved you and made you feel less alone, don't keep it to yourself. Tell someone who needs to be reminded that mending isn't a straight line, that love isn't just for perfect people, and that happiness isn't a reward. You can choose. Please like this video, subscribe to Hidden Worth, and leave a comment telling us what portion of the tale stuck with you the most. Because there is another Zarya out there watching. And she has to know. She's not the only one who still needs to realize that she's worth it.